The following podcast is a VSW podcast feature presentation. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh, it's a Beantown Sports Wolfcast. Oh, disabled Wolf, take us home. Burr, 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 burr. Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Beantown Sports Wolfcast, powered by VSW Podcast. Today, we are talking about the Boston Bruins as they advance to the Massmutual Eastern Divisional Finals. Not exactly the Eastern Conference Semifinals this year, as they take on the number 4-seeded New York Islanders. Will their defense be too much for the Bruins to handle, or will the high-powered first two lines carry them to the conference finals? Find out next on the Beantown Sports Wolfcast. You are too much, guys. Cut it out. Today, Disabled is here with recapping the Boston Bruins' chances of escaping the second round, or this year, since the COVID protocols rehashed all the division alignments, it is the Massmutual Eastern Divisional Finals. Normally, we'd be in the Eastern Conference Semifinals in the second round, but as late as this year, we could be in the Stanley Cup, but the season got delayed to December or January, causing a 60-game shortened regular season due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, which we hope is out of our way, folks. But effective today, May 29th, Governor Charlie Baker yesterday signing the legislation. Any business, including a roaring TD Garden, can operate at not 10%, not even 12%. Not even 25, not even 50%, but 100% full capacity, folks. Isn't that amazing or what? What we're going to go over today is how the Bruins' chances are winning this series and advancing the conference finals. It's going to be tough outside the NHL. You got Golden State Knights, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, advancing over the Minnesota Wild in the Western Division Finals to take on the number one Colorado Avalanche, who had a really good year this year. And in the Canadian rebrand North Division, you got the two biggest Canadian franchises, original sixes of all time, the Montreal Canadiens versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, which the Maple Leafs lead 3-2 series. There's a reason why I didn't think the Bruins were going to play today originally at 8 o'clock, because in Saturdays is hockey night in Canada. It's like Sunday's football in the U.S., as this people in Sportsnet and Rogers are not going to let the two biggest powerhouses in Canada fight on a non-Saturday night slot, which is 7:30, I think, on NBCSN in this state. But the Bruins are on national TV in a Boston-New York showdown on NBC, which is their final season for NHL broadcasts, as they're going to switch over to two semi-tiers of TV deals to take advantage of the streaming service, respectively, in this day and age. You got ESPN getting hockey back with ABC as their national provider, and the B-side, you have Turner Network with TNT and maybe TBS taking the bulk of the games next year. So you get the NHL expanding past this COVID protocols, not only swiftly, but extraordinary, as NHL can finally grow the game back to where it was, as I'm very excited for the series. I honestly think the money line for this with the Bruins and Islanders has the Bruins as the favorite with minus 160 according to Bovada Sports Betting or DraftKings. And you got the Islanders as a plus 140. So the season series between these folks is you have the Islanders dominating the first half of this regular season series. And since the Bruins acquired Taylor Hall from a trade with Buffalo, they won their last three matchups in the second half. So it's kind of interesting. The Islanders dominated the first half of these 8 meetings, but the Bruins dominated the second half, which leads people to think it's going to be an easy series. I wouldn't underestimate this team. This team beat Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and the high-scoring Pittsburgh, very marketable Pittsburgh Penguins. Not only 1 year, but 2 fucking years in a row. So that's really interesting, folks. As what really leads the Islanders, they're not a high-scoring team. When you think of the Islanders years ago, you think of in the 90s and 2000s, away from the 80s heyday where they won 4 Stanley Cups in a row, I believe, including beating the Bruins in one of them. I believe they used to be in the bottom of the barrel in terms of New York because they only have not 1, not 2, but 3 NHL hockey teams because New York's the biggest market in the world alongside Los Angeles. As you think of the Devils in the early 2000s, late 90s with all their heyday with Martin Brodeur and Scott Stevens, and they're always overshadowed by the original 6 MSG-hosted New York Rangers, as the Rangers struggled this year. So the Islanders, the reason why they're struggling in terms of marketable, I believe, isn't how they play. Their uniforms are pretty cool with their blue and orange pouties. But you got them trying to leave Nassau Veterans Coliseum. I went there before, folks, when the Bruins played the Islanders years ago. And that place is looks just like your typical high school hockey rink. It's not an NHL capacity arena. It looks way different than on TV. You feel like you're back in time in the 70s when it's in the middle of nowhere, Nassau, in the middle of a big, huge parking lot in the Marriott Hotel. As they're finally back there this year, as they're getting a new stadium in the Queens, Long Island area, I believe, because Barclays Center in Brooklyn, they've been flipping between that, even the Devils Arena and the Prudential Center in New Jersey, as they have not found a consistent home in years, as they want a brand new stadium near the Belmont Stakes, where the final horse race is going to be in the series of Kentucky Derby, Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. It's right there in New York, as it's going to be very interesting to see if they schedule Game 4 right after the Belmont Stakes near New York to capitalize on ratings. We only know when Game 1 is. I believe Game 2 is either Monday or Tuesday, but the rest of the 5 potential games, we don't know, folks. But the New York Islanders have gotten this far because they have a phenomenal defense and a great rookie goaltender in Elias Sorokin. He is the 10th goalie in NHL history to win his first 4 playoff games, as they have rotated in New York, benching Elias Sorgathis, or they've been rotating between another goaltender too, which is Sergei Varlamov. As it's been, you don't know where they're going to use. Are they going to ride the hot hand? The Bruins have been led in goaltending by Tuukka Rask with a .913 save percentage, the highest in a few years, as he is a favorite punching bag of Boston sports fans alike, because a lot of people don't trust Tuukka. I do. He's a phenomenal goalie. You can't always blame him if a bad goal gets let in. He's not perfect, of course, but he is an all-star for a reason. Like I said, it's not going to be on Tuukka if they don't get far in the playoffs. It's going to be whether their first 2 lines can show up and their high-powered defense can keep teams from scoring. I believe that you're going to get a good Bruins to show up. Their injury list is Jeremy Lawson day-to-day. You got Kevin Millar out by a nasty hit taken by a Capitals defenseman. I hope he is doing okay. As the goals of this series, the experts predict it to be low scoring, like I agree. I think they say it's going to be over under 5 goals this game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, folks. I think that the Bruins' high capacity at TD Garden is going to get them to win this first 2 home games. But I'm not going to underestimate the Islanders. My personal prediction, a lot of people think the Islanders will toughen it up or the Bruins will run away with this. I will go with the Bruins in 6 games. As a good defense, you cannot underestimate, especially in this day and age where there's high scoring in almost any sport. The NFL with the fantasy points, you got the NBA, and you got the MLB's trying to go back to a pitcher's game since the steroid era, but the NHL has been known for high scoring since the early 2000s, as they've really been capitalizing on Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin. The Bruins aren't all-star scorers. They're phenomenal scorers. They aren't as marketable like the Crosbys and Ovechkins or Jonathan Tays in the world. But they got a high-flying first line as Pastrnak had led the team in scoring all last season before the pandemic began. You got the heart and soul of the team, Patrice Bergeron, trying to go for his marketing skills alongside of Tom Brady and David Ortiz. As with Zdeno Chara leaving for the Washington Capitals, which we did exit him from not only the playoffs, he might be considering retirement as well. I'd like to wish you the best of luck in the future, Chara, as Bergeron's the heart and soul of the team, one of the best face-off winners in the business today. You also got Brad Marchand, the nose-face killer, leading the Bruins in all offensive categories this season with not only assists, he also leads the team in points and goals, as the Bruins have been a high-powered house this whole series. As the coach Barry Trotz of the Islanders saying, they're really comfortable in being uncomfortable with, I quote, in close games and figure more of them upcoming soon. I think the Bruins might lose the favoritive advantage if the defense of the Islanders really kicks in. Their X factor of the Islanders is the defense of Matt, I believe his name is. No, that's a center, of Ned Leddy. He's been holding this team. He even held Sidney Crosby to low scoring in the playoffs this year. That's what I think. If the Bruins are going to win this game, it's going to be crushing the defense, and they have to focus. Bruce Cassidy has to focus on crashing the net the whole time. You also got Jean-Gabriel Pageau leading the team in regular season. And you got Matthew Barzal leading the team in goals. That's who I was trying to say before, but he's a center. These are the huge X factors for the Islanders if they're going to pull the upset on the Bruins. The Bruins just have to have Tuukka playing well and their first two lines scoring. But the real X factor of the Bruins has been Taylor Hall. If you really think about it, like I've said a million times on this podcast, we could have had him a decade ago, folks, if they haven't taken Tyler Seguin with his partying issues, as he's all the way down in Dallas playing golf right now, I believe. The Bruins' second line has really pumped up the iron ever since they got Taylor Hall. That is an understatement, folks. Because you got David Krejci, who's been slow scoring all season. I believe he's only had 16 to 18 points the first half of the season, which is a record low for him. Krejci has always been known as being one of the underrated linemen in the whole Bruins team and the game. As you got Taylor Hall really enthusiastically roaring this whole offensive line. I can't stress enough how good he's been for this Bruins. As you've got Pastrnak and Marchand and Bergeron in the first line, you got Taylor Hall, David Krejci, and maybe even Coyle in the second line. Coyle's more known as being in the third line. But you got the fourth line really killing penalties for this team. The Bruins have been really good at killing the penalty, as they've been shorthanded not only most of the Capital Series, but most of the regular season. They can avoid being in the penalty box as much as possible. They're a very physical team. Both these teams are. The Bruins will easily run away with this series. But I am really excited on what this series can bring to this Boston area. I am really excited to see the enthusiasm as people are getting the confidence, getting vaccinated to go back to normal, as this is the first playoff teams. Believe it or not, it's very common for teams in the division or near each other to play each other quite consistently in 5 to 10 years in the first or second round, respectively. But it's been not since the 2000s and the 90s, but the early 80s was the last time these two teams played in the playoffs, as the Islanders won both series. We include one of them in the Stanley Cup Finals because everything was realigned differently then. This is the third time, and we at the VSW will tell you that third time is always a charm in our area. no pun intended, as the Bruins are really good, really high-powered offensively, physical. They have the best fourth line right now, killing penalties for the team, leading by Ritchie. And you got the high-powered defenses of Brandon Carl, and you got Charlie McAvoy, too, really killing it for them. As you got Craig Smith, who's been a 74% rating in the offense, helping David Krejci. Taylor Hall giving this man new life, including a Game 3 overtime winner with a wraparound behind the net, fooling one of the Capitals' goalies. And don't underestimate the third line. You got a rookie in Nick Ritchie, who's been really carrying the team as a rookie. He should be nominated for their 7th Player of the Year with Jake DeBrusk and Charlie Coyle, a local Boston native. As you got the fourth line in Sean Corrali, Curtis Lazar, and Chris Wagner. Not really on too much, obviously, but they do their job when Cassidy assigns them. That's all you can ask them for this team. As you got the defensive pairing in Charlie McAvoy and Matt Grzelcyk, the emergence of Carlo in the second defensive line and Mike Riley is the real reason why they let Chara go in the first place, as McAvoy's another Boston native playing for Boston University. Been amazing on the defense, very high in the plus and minus rate. And you've got Connor Clifton and Jared Tinerati as their third line, which you can't underestimate. But the Bruins have emerged to have one of the best power play lines in the game, thanks to Taylor Hall. And you got Krejci being waked up from his slumber the beginning of the year, as you got the nose-face killer who's always reliable, and Patrice Bergeron as the center, taking the face-offs. But like I said, folks, good goaltending. If Tuukka keeps his head up, will advance, and the first two lines show up all the time. If you got 2 out of the 3 out of the Bergeron, Krejci, and Marchand line showing up in the all offensively in the game, scoring goals and carrying the power play unit, they'll win this single-handedly. But I like to play it safe in the VSW and my predictions. I'm not going to assume a sweep. I know they beat the Capitals pretty shockingly easily after the first 2 games and 3 games in a row in overtime, including a doubleheader in Game 3. You got the easy, handily Nation's capital route. I don't think it'll expand to this Islanders team. I think it's going to be a 6-game series. I don't see this going 7 games because the Bruins are way better offensively. They may say defense wins championships, but the Bruins got a defense as well, folks. As Patrice Bergeron, I think, leads the Bruins in playoff games played, overtaking Ray Bourque and Cam Neely, who Cam Neely is up in the office with the Bruins front GM roles, as he's done a really good job with the Jacobs' owning team. I know he's not crazy liked in Boston, but Jacobs has been able to spend the money the past 10 years to get this team to play offensively. As you got, I believe the Maple Leafs will pull away with the Canadians, advancing to the North Finals against the Winnipeg Jets. And you got the Central Series, not really Central, more of the Southeast Series, as the Hurricanes, formerly known as the Brest Bonanza, and the Hartford Whalers taking the Nashville Predators in 6, facing the defending Stanley Cup champions, which knocked the Bruins out next year. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, so I hope we can get some sweet revenge over the Steven Stamkos and the Tampa Bay Lightning, folks. The Powdered Blues has been a 3rd seed, knocking out the Florida series against the Panthers, advancing to the Central Finals against the Hurricanes, as I think the experience will matter, as the Bruins and Lightning have a ton of experience in this whole playoffs. I think it's going to be the Colorado Avalanche, the Boston Bruins, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Winnipeg Jets. I don't trust Toronto to go far, folks. I really don't. I know the people up north will hate me for this, but it's okay. We always embarrass the Leafs when we get an opportunity. The COVID pandemic was an excuse to get the people in Toronto to run away from us. Boston, including the greatest Game 7 comeback in playoff history, 5-6 years ago. I was there. It was freaking rocking, folks. Down 4-1 and scoring not 1, not 2, but 3 goals in under 5 minutes, folks. That's amazing. As you got the Bruins really carrying the city of Boston past the coronavirus pandemic for boost of confidence among the Beantown faithful, as they're going to win this in 6. As all I'm going to cover, tune in at 8 o'clock tonight on NBC and 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, 10 hours before face-off, folks. As we in the VSW, that's all I have for today. I will return with plenty of Wolfcast next week. And tune into Versace with the VSW with all our wrestling coverage, as it's a big day tomorrow. Today's the Bruins playoffs, but you also got the Celtics coming back to life with Jason Tatum scoring 50 points, leading 2-1. You got the Red Sox coming back at full capacity against the Miami Marlins. And you got the Julio Jones trade rumors as the Patriots are top contender. I still haven't previewed our schedule yet that came out a few weeks ago. I hope to do that within the next week or two. As you got the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Me and Versace is going to have a special 2-parter as we'll be watching tomorrow night together. Previewing that, folks. If you're new to wrestling as a Boston sports fan, all my Bruins fans watching, I know a lot of you watched in the Attitude Era, as you see a lot of WWE cosplays up in the game montage and their theme music played during a Bruins game, folks. I encourage you to check out Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle to take on the Pinnacle and Double or Nothing. But that's all I have today. I don't want to keep you guys from this very long, exciting Memorial Day weekend, folks. I know the weather's not too great, but let's go Bruins beat New York, as the Sabewolf is signing out. We would like to thank you for watching this feature VSW presentation and subscribe to the VSW podcast on YouTube. Thank you very much.